Welcome to this episode of Transform. This is going to be a real good one tonight. This man to my right, I'm privileged and honored to know him from when he was a youngster. And his name is Matt. And this right here is going to be, I think, one of the ones that's very needed, because so many people ask me about, I know, Matt, you've probably seen the one with my son, and this one, you're a son. You know what I mean? So I want to do the son part 2, but not with my son, but with another son that I know. So, Matt, thank you. Thank you for being part of Transform. Thank you for being on. I know it's kind of hot in here, you know what I mean? I feel like Nelly, kind of hot, you know what I mean? But, let me see where to start. I'll just start here. The main question, who is Matt?
Who is Matt? All right. Well, before we get into that, I just want to congratulate you. I know you started this YouTube channel a few months back.
Yes, sir. And
you already, you surpassed 200 subscribers. You're creeping up on 3.
Thank you.
And as a beginner content creator, those milestones are big.
Thanks.
Like your first every 100 subscribers, that's like a big thing. Like you think sometimes we look on YouTube and you see people with thousands of subscribers, tens of thousands, million subscribers. My kids watch videos, of people just doing nothing really. They're playing with Play-Doh and they got 50 million subscribers, and we put in the time, we put in hours, we put in editing, blood, sweat, and tears, and maybe our video gets 100 views, 1,000 views if we're lucky, and then maybe it gets like 3 subscribers, and we're like, dang, like that took me like 20 hours just to get there.
Go ahead.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I just want to, congratulate you, and that you're putting in your hard work for the viewers, that this is something God put upon your heart to do, not just to be seen, but that so that God can be seen. So that's a big deal. A few years ago I started a YouTube channel, quick shout out Side Yard Mechanic. But I'm coming up on 1,000 subscribers. So, it's exciting. It takes a lot of work. It's hard work. This last year, was a little tough. I recently had a new baby. So that takes up a lot of time. For those of you that do make YouTube videos or content, that it's more than just doing what you're doing. Like you could be making a simple, how to change your oil, because that's what I do. I do a lot of mechanic stuff, cars, motorcycles, bikes, car shows. You think, oh, it's just a little 5-minute video, but that 5-minute video might have took 5 hours of production, of prep,
he's speaking my language, y'all.
You know what I mean? Of editing, of making the thumbnail. Different things like that. But it's the long game, right? And even in our walk with Christ, we say that it's not a sprint; it's a marathon.
True.
So if we think that we're going to see that instantaneous, grow, which it could happen, you never know. Something might go viral. That's the beauty of the internet, of the tech, is that things can just, like that, they could go viral. Real quick. Someone sees it, they share it, another person, boom, it's the law of multiplication. It just explodes. So, I understand, coming up, and, I'm trying I get maybe 1 or 2 subscribers a day at this point. But even just putting out shorts and different things like that. And, it's exciting. It's exciting, but at the same time, it does take the effort and even the being resilient, and also the ability to continue to go forward when you don't see that growth, when you put the hours in, and the time, and even putting out the finances to produce something, and maybe you only get 50 views. And so it's easy to be like, you know what, maybe this isn't for me. I'm gonna just throw in the towel. But one thing that I learned as looking at other content creators or other people, it's you just got to keep pushing. Just keep pushing, keep pressing, keep doing it.
True.
And eventually something's gonna break.
True.
Right? Even as Christians, we have a saying, push, right? Push, pray until something happens, right? And so you just got to keep praying. You still got to keep on grinding.
True.
You know, and I just wanted to share that, because we're gonna get into who I am.
But even speaking on that, Matt, when you saying push, you know what I mean? Like, I think it was my guy. It was years back when I was on the roof. I don't know if you remember. You probably remember.
Huntwood.
on the roof with your dad.
Yep.
And your dad was teaching me. I got chills talking about this. My gosh. And I was on the roof learning how to put everything down, use the gun and everything.
Yep.
And you rolled in. We was doing the roof right across the street from where he lived there.
Yeah, so. We lived on the other side of Huntwood,
right
there in Hayward. I just got off of school. I got off the bus.
Yeah. And this man was pushing. I don't know how when you stopped and your dad was like, "Matt, what do you want?" And I looked over. I'm like, "What the heck? He pushing." and truthfully, Matt, I think, yes, who you are, but it's what you are. You know what I mean? Like this man right here, and I thank you for coming on because you model to me how to endure, how to push through. You get what I'm saying? Like he said, he's a mechanic. This man can fix anything. Like he brought an old school truck? What was that?
1954 Ford F100. So it's an old school pickup truck. Like fat fender kind of body style. Sanford and Sons.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But it was sitting at our recovery home for like a long time.
It was in the backyard of the men's home right there off Schaefer for about 5 years.
That's what I'm saying.
And that's when we got it.
Yeah.
Somebody blessed us with that. They gave it to my dad, but even before that truck sat for 30-something years.
Yeah.
Right there off of Soto Road. It's crazy. I was born in '86. That car was parked in '84, so it was parked before I was even born. You know what I mean? It's almost like
it didn't even run.
Wait. And that was always to have like a classic car was always like a desire of my heart. You know what I mean? And when you serve God, sometimes you don't always have the means to get everything you desire.
True.
But God always provides the desires of your heart. You know what I mean? And even it trips me out because it's like before I was born, it's like God put that there for me.
Yeah.
So that at the time, He could bless me with it, but it's not like we got it and you just put the key in and ran. Like this thing was like full of rats and spiders and like the wheels were rotted out and the gas tank was rot. Yeah, so
it was bad. I remember seeing that.
Yep.
I remember seeing like your persistence. You know what I mean? Like I think a lot of people, a lot of men, we go for it. But then we'd be like, just like that little sign that says, big deal. Like, I ain't no big deal, man. It just, it's just scrap metal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you made something out of nothing. And I love that because it's just like what God does to us.
Oh, yeah,
He makes He make us something out of nothing.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the main reasons why I really love and enjoy doing what I do as a mechanic. Fixing things, even just preventative maintenance. As Christians, we need preventative maintenance all the time.
Come on.
We need someone.
I need some now.
Discipleship. All that kind of stuff. Prayer, reading the Word, fasting, conferences. Discipleships, all that kind of stuff. That's preventative maintenance.
Correct.
That keeps us on the road.
True.
Right. If we neglect those oil changes and those tire rotations. And checking the brakes and doing all those routine things, we're gonna find ourselves in the ditch. You know what I mean? And sometimes, as Christians, that's what happened.
Or on the side of the freeway.
Exactly.
Yellow.
If we don't pay attention to the signs or to the things that God gives us, we're gonna get that spiritual blowout.
Come on.
You know what I mean?
Come on.
Or
that boy just said something right there.
So when that's what I really enjoy, and I get that. I remember even being in the UTC. I'm a UTC graduate. For those who don't know, Victory Outreach has a ministry, the Urban Training Center.
Yes.
We have one in LA. We have one in the East Coast. It used to be in Bridgeport, Connecticut. BPT. Mm-hmm. Shout out if anybody's there watching on Jane Street, right there in Bridgeport, Connecticut. But now it's in Chicago. We got them in Mexico and Africa. But I was there in Bridgeport. And you know, one thing they were teaching us is, you know, let everything speak to you.
Yeah.
You know, try to get a message from everything you do.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
even if you're, you know, we would do double scrubs. That means like you when you're doing your chore, you got to do it even more. Like move the furniture.
Yeah.
You know, take all these tiles down that are, you know, clean every little thing.
Yeah.
You know, clean under the desk, all that kind of stuff. And you know, it was like try to get the message out of it. Like clean that toilet like you want God to clean your heart. You know what I mean? And so, you know, when I do a project,
yeah,
that's kind of my mentality is, okay,
Yeah.
God, I want to restore this, or I want to fix this.
Yeah.
You know, the same way that you're fixing me, the same way that
Sure.
you're restoring me. You know, and God does that with us too. He takes us that are messed up, that are beat down.
Come on.
People kind of cast to the side. Maybe they
on.
park us and forget about us.
Come on.
But God pulls us out of that
Come on.
miry clay,
Come
you
on.
know, and He transforms us.
Come on.
He renews us. He refreshes us.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, He puts that new anointing in
Come
us.
on.
You know, sometimes, you know, it's like with cars, for the car guys and girls out there. You know, He LS swaps us. You know what I mean? He puts
Go
that
ahead.
new heart.
Go
you know,
ahead,
He
yeah.
puts that power in us. You know, to do what He's called us to do. You know, and to be a new creation. And you know, so you know, I don't necessarily even on my channel, like I'll post, you know, certain things, but I'm not really like preaching it. But you know, for those of you who maybe check out my channel, like when you see me restoring a car or fixing something or restoring bicycles or something, like just think like the same way that I'm doing that, God can do that for you. You know, that He, you know, take you all apart, clean off that rust,
Come
you know
on.
what I mean, put some
Come
new
on.
parts,
Come on.
and then put you back out there, you know, for to reach your potential.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm trying to even think where we were at. What spurred on that conversation and that little rabbit trail?
Good question. Good question. But I think it was much needed because of the simple fact is
The roof. We were talking about the roof. Yeah.
And use biking and even
That truck. The truck that we got.
that
Yeah.
truck
So
you got.
so that truck was given to us. It was given to my dad.
Okay.
Because when I was a kid, this is kind of getting into who I am. You know, like I said, born in 1986. Dad was like, "Oh, I knew him when he was young." You might be thinking, "Well, he still is young." You know, I'm coming up on 40. You know, I started serving God when I was 18 years old. I first gave my life to Christ when I was 12.
Wow.
12 years old. That's kind of when, you know, everything hit the fan, as people would say. You know what I mean? My mom had got diagnosed with cancer. She ended up passing away only a few months later. You know what I mean? I think she had got diagnosed like in May of 98, and in October of 97, and then in May 98 she passed away. So in a matter of months, you know. And I remember going to Stanford Hospital, you know, and you know, going through all that and seeing all the, you know, chemo and surgeries. But even leading up to that, you know, my dad, he was a drug addict. He was a gang member, selling drugs, you know, all that kind of stuff here in the Bay Area. And I was growing up in that lifestyle, you know, having the cops come and raid our house and busting down our doors and, you know, pulling us out of bed. You know, I remember one time, me and my dad, we were coming back, you know, from the methadone clinic. Actually, I was probably only like 6 or 7 years old, but I always liked to ride with my dad, you know what I mean? And we're still tight to this day, and we'll get to that. But we were coming back, I think, from San Francisco. He used to go and he used to do like a home run. He'd hit all the methadone clinics, Hayward, Oakland, San Francisco, you know, and then come home. And I don't, you know, he might not even have been taking the methadone himself. He might have been selling it. I don't know. But during that time, the cops were, you know, staking us out. And when we got home, as soon as we pulled in the driveway, boom, all these cop cars come. You know, and I think they were SWAT or whatever. I don't know, like some secret forces. You know what I mean? Like something you see, like Black Ops in the. That's what it felt like. But I remember just being a little kid sitting in the passenger seat of the car and turning, and there's a shotgun barrel right in my face, and you know, yelling at us, screaming at us. They go rip my mom out of bed. You know, barely any clothes on. Yeah. Throw us down in the front room. Other cops come busting in the windows, break glass everywhere. You know, and that happened a few times, and. Going and seeing my dad, you know, in jail all the time, you know, so that was a life that I grew up in, and as a kid, like, you know, I wanted to be like my dad. I wanted to be a gang member. I wanted to be a drug addict. I wanted to be covered in tattoos. I wanted to do all that kind of stuff. I thought that's what my future was going to be, you know, being in Santa Rita, San Quentin, doing all that kind of stuff. You know, so looking back at the situation, it's almost like I thank God for what happened, because it was when my mom passed away, my dad ended up, you know, doing his thing, going off the deep end. And he ended up finding himself in San Quentin for a few years. And during that time, at my mom's funeral, Pastor Steve Pineda, the senior pastor of Victory Outreach Hayward at the time, he did her funeral, and he made an altar call, you know, and he put out the word, and he asked if anybody wanted to give their life to Christ. And as a 12-year-old, you know, I didn't really understand it. I just knew if my mom was going to be in heaven, because even though our life was crazy and my dad did what he did, like my mom, she was different. You know what I mean? Like, she had that unconditional love. And we would go to church off and on, you know, throughout my childhood. My dad was in and out of the men's home periodically. My mom she went to like a women's conference one time. But, you know, we never were there faithfully. But Pastor Steve, he had known my mom, and you know, he really believed that she had went to heaven, and you know, I believe that too, because you know, she had a purpose in her life. She at the age of, I think, 4 or 5 years old, she was diagnosed with cancer. They put her through all kinds of tests and gave her all kinds of like experimental procedures and all this stuff, where the doctors pretty much told my grandma, your daughter, she's probably not going to live to be, you know, 18 years old. We've bombarded her with all this treatment, with all this drugs and all this kind of stuff. She's not going to be able to have kids. Yeah. You know, so my mom ended up living to be 32 years old, and she had 3 kids. You know, so I see that as the hand of God. You know, that he knows what he's doing. Yes, he does. You know what I mean? And you know, so I believe that my mom was in heaven. So when Pastor Steve put out that call, if anybody wanted to be saved, because that was the way to heaven, I didn't really know about serving God. I just knew if my mom's in heaven, I want to be there too. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I raised my hand, and I accepted the Lord in my heart right there when I was 12 years old. But I believe that from that time, God had his hand on my life even more, because like I said, my mom passed away, my dad was in prison. We were bouncing around from house to house, family member to family member, you know, and you know, I want to give props to one of my aunts. You know, they would take us to church. My grandma, they would take us to church. Yeah. You know, we had loving family around us that did their best, you know, to pour into us and to raise us up. You know, so I would go to youth groups here and there. But then when my dad finally got out of jail and out of prison, I think it was like around 2001, we started going to NA meetings, you know, where he started going it, but I wanted to support him. Like I said, I always loved my dad. I always had his back. Yeah. You know, when I was getting older, when I was about 12, around the time everything happened, I started realizing, okay, maybe what he's doing isn't right. Yeah. You know, I remember in school they had like the DARE program, remember? The cops would come. Exactly. And, you know, and we had to do a report. Yeah. We had to do a report on drugs, and you know, most of the time it's like, don't smoke weed, it's bad. You know, or I did a whole report on how to like fix heroin. You know what I mean? Because I grew up in that household. Yeah. You know, and I knew like what you do. Yeah. You know, and it's like even when I was reading the thing, the cops were just staring at me like I don't know if we should applaud him or arrest him. You know. But that was an experience. Yeah. But when he got out, you know, I just wanted to have his back. So we started going to NA meetings. Wow. My dad ended up getting clean. Wow. He ended up meeting his now wife, and they just celebrated 20 years of marriage. Yes. He ended up leading the NA meetings for a period of time. And then, you know, through that 12-step program, we ended up coming to church. Wow. You know, we ended up coming back to Victory Outreach. That was about 2002, 2003. We really started coming back to church right when Pastor Steve got sick. Right when Pastor Steve got sick and he ended up passing away is like right in the midst of when we really started coming back to church. So, you know, I remember being a young kid and like not really paying attention. I was just going to church because my dad was going to church. I didn't want my dad going back to the streets. I didn't want my dad going back to drugs. you know, so, you know, we would go to church, and I didn't really pay attention to any of the messages or nothing like that.
Yeah.
I remember even the youth leaders, you know, I think you were part of the youth team back then. They would always try to come hit me up. Hey, come to gang service. Gang, for those who don't know, gang is God's Anointed Now Generation. It's the youth ministry in Victory Outreach. Now that we call it the Third Wave.
Yeah.
But I was like, nah, I don't want nothing to do with you guys. You know what I mean? Like, and I already had a job. I had my own car.
Yeah.
I was still in high school though.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm just doing me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm here to support my dad.
Yeah. I think that's what you used to say. I'm
Yeah.
here to support my dad.
Yeah.
We like, bro, can you? No, I'm here to support my dad.
Yeah. But also too, like,
I remember those times.
you know, during that time, like, I grew up a lot.
Yeah.
You know, so I was already responsible for myself. You know what I mean? Like, I had a few jobs already through high school. You know, I had bought my own cell phone and my own car, you know what I mean? And I was living, with my grandma, but I was pretty much on my own, you know what I mean? And so I was like, nah, that's for kids. Like, you know, I'm already pretty much, I don't need that. But then, you know, God starts moving in your heart. You know, God starts, you know, they have that saying, like, if you go to the barber enough, you're going to get a haircut, right? And so that's the thing is, I was going to church enough where God ended up, you know, fading me up. You know what I mean? And so, you know, God touched my heart, God touched my life. I ended up getting involved with, like, the men's ministry. I still didn't really get involved with the youth. Yeah. And then it was like 2004, we went to Mighty Men of Valor. That's our men's conference. And I was there with my dad and a few of the other pastors, you know, that we were working with. And that's where God really grabbed a hold of my life. That's where I really, like, committed my life to God, was right there in Pasadena at the convention center at Mighty Men of Valor. And it was the last service. I remember it was like the last service. It was the last morning service. It was like a Friday or something. And it was Pastor Fernie Franco, and he was speaking. And, you know, all the messages were powerful that time. I even remember the first night Pastor Ed opened up, and he was talking about Por Vida, you know, and everybody's like, no matter where you went in Pasadena, people were out yelling out their windows, Por Vida, because Victory Outreach, we take over. When we go to a city, when we go to a city for a conference, like, it's curtains. Like, there's Victory Outreach people at every restaurant, every hotel, every Walmart.
And they love us. Yeah, they know when we coming. They love
us the first few days.
After it's like,
and they love us when we leave.
Yeah. Like, is it over yet? Yeah, it's over. Like the last one. Yeah. They was always telling me, hey, is it over yet? Yeah.
But that was that conference where Pastor Ed, it was like, Por Vida! And it was like, that really hit me. Because growing up, I knew about Victory Outreach. Yeah. But I just thought it was Victory Outreach Hayward. I didn't know it was Victory Outreach International, this worldwide movement, worldwide ministry, you know, reaching the inner cities of the world. You know, so when I stepped into that convention center and I seen, you know, it was probably like 15,000 men, tattoos, and you know, big mustaches, and people from all kinds of walks of life, different countries, all raising up their hands and, you know, getting marching orders, you know, like that really just hit me hard like a ton of bricks. But it was for some reason, it was that specific message by Pastor Fernie Franco. I need to go back and listen to that message. I don't really even remember exactly every point. I just remember it was about, like, being called and answering the call of God. And it's like, that's the very first time I heard, like, in my heart, like, it's kind of weird to say that, but, like, I heard in my heart, like, I didn't really hear it in my ears, but I heard it and felt it in my heart, like God calling me, like, you're chosen, you're called, you know. And it's like, something overcame me. I just started crying. I was broken. I didn't know what to do. You know what I mean? Like I said, I was 18 years old. I was about ready to graduate high school. I kind of already had my own plans. I had a job. I had my car, all that stuff. I was trying to get into art college. You know, I wanted to be like an automotive designer, different things like that, like drafting and drawing. Yeah. And but God just completely interrupted that. You know, he completely interrupted that, and he told me what I felt in my heart was, you're called to go. And I was like, called to go? I was like, okay, amen. Like, I didn't know, you know, it's like, I never even cracked open the Bible, you know what I mean? Like, I never, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Right. So, as soon as I walked out of the sanctuary, the main auditorium, there was a UTC booth right there. And at first, at that time, Pastor Emmanuel Aguilar, he was getting ready to get sent out to Tracy.
Yeah.
So what I really thought was, okay, God, you want me to go with him help him in Tracy. So, I remember just talking to my dad and talking to them, but things change. And so what they told me, he said, okay, well, before you do that, we need you to get prepared. We need you to get trained. Yeah. So they pretty much like pushed me in front of the training center booth and handed me an application, and it's a trip. That was May.
Wow.
I graduated high school in June, and then June 10th, I flew out to the East Coast.
Out of there.
You know what I mean? So like a month and a half later, I find myself across the United States with people I don't know.
Have no clue.
You know what I mean? Like crazy, And for those of you who know Bridgeport, it's like East Oakland, but on the East Coast. You know what I mean? Like it's tough. It's rough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just different. You know what I mean? Instead of, I mean, what do they say over here? Like, what's up, homie? They say, oye, papi. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's up with all these dudes got their eyebrows all done and lined up? Like, you know what I mean? Like, for me, I thought something funny. You know what I mean? And so it was a complete culture shock. You know. And but that year that I spent there in Bridgeport was life changing. And I think the reason why I'm still here today, still serving God, still pushing forward. I have my ups, I have my downs. You know what I mean? But I've never walked away from God. Yeah. I've taken breaks from things, stepped down from leadership at times, but I've always followed God. I've always, made that a priority in my life, because it's the things that we learn in the training center, the same things we learn in the men's home. Those are our foundations. Those are the fundamentals, that we, when all else fails, we default to that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That we default to, okay, you know what? If I'm feeling real weird, I'm feeling kind of funky, or I'm feeling like I want to go do this or do that, like I just need to like stop. And I just need to get a hold of God. And I just need to, get into His Word. Maybe I need to fast a few days. I need to just go talk to somebody, go, fellowship, you know what I mean, a little bit. But the training center changed my life. We would go hit the streets. We would do street evangelism. We would do street rallies. I think the first time I rapped was in the training center.
And rapped?
I rapped a little bit. Even back here within the youth, we rapped a little bit. We had like Daniel. Yeah, my brother-in-law Daniel. Yeah. He's out there in Hawaii. Yeah. Danny Devato, check him out on YouTube. John Hurtado, right? The Goers.
Go down. Go ahead.
So fast forward. I go through the training center. I come back, to the church, and I get involved in youth ministry.
Did you get sent out?
Yeah, so I get involved in youth ministry. I'm one of the youth leaders, and then at the time, Pastor Steve, so before he died, he had a vision to go to South Africa. And so when he passed away, some of his close disciples were like, okay, we need to fulfill this vision of our pastor, and we need to go to South Africa. So they assembled a team. And initially, I was going to be part of that team. I was going to be part of that team with, I believe, Pastor James from Santa Rosa. Correct. Pastor Anthony Sanchez from Fremont, and a few other people. And we were going to be the team to go get sent out there, Pastor Barry, get sent out there to South Africa. Yeah. They still did that, but instead of sending me, because I was still young. Yeah. I was only like 19 years old, I think. No, maybe 20 years old. At that time, and they were like, that's kind of too, we don't want to throw them in the deep end. We're just going to throw them in the deep end.
Wolf.
You know what I mean? So they ended up sending me and Jimmy Maldonado to Indonesia. Yeah. And I was in Indonesia for about 4 months with Pastor Chucky Lopez. And Pastor Chucky Lopez right now, he's like pretty much the South Africa pastor. Exactly. He's almost seen as Pastor Sonny's like right-hand man.
And the amazing part about it, he's out there and he's not even African American. Like he's far from it. He's from
so he's Fremont. From Fremont. He's from Irvington. He was a knucklehead. I believe gang member, drug addict, all that kind of stuff. All that. Him and Pastor Anthony Sanchez used to run together in and out of jail. They came through the men's home, I think late 90s, early 2000s or something like that. He ended up getting sent out to the Philippines, then ended up going out there to Indonesia. you know, so he was the pastor there. The church was blowing up, and at the time, it probably still is. It was the largest Muslim country, Indonesia, where you can get thrown in prison for preaching the gospel.
I went out there with Nicky Cruz,
for telling people about Jesus. They could lock you up, you know. And every few hours, you know, they have the poles with the speakers, and you hear the Muslim prayers coming across the loudspeakers, and they got people driving up and down the street with machine guns. You know, it is a trip. But you know, God had called us there, and so I had an awesome time there, helping out with the church, helping out with the youth ministry. You know, even those few months that I was there, Pastor Chucky really poured into us. You know, discipling us, and you know, just spending those times, like probably 4 or 5 days out of the week, we were with him, praying every morning, having devotions every morning. You know, we would go to the gym together. We would, you know. And you know, he's a cool dude. He's a cool dude. Like he has a funny sense of humor.
Yes, he does.
And you know, I'm a big guy, and I was bigger then. I'm actually like I lost about 100 and something pounds since then.
Yeah.
And you know, I was a big. And when you're in Indonesia, you're even bigger. Right? Like a big Indonesian is like 150 pounds. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and I'm over there like 3 something. You know, so it's like their chairs ain't built for me.
Not at all.
Their cars ain't built for me.
Not at all.
You know what I mean? So I KO'd a few chairs when I was over there in Indonesia, and Pastor Chucky knew that, and I remember he took me to a barber shop, and I'm sitting in the barber chair, and the thing just keeps slowly like creeping. It's like it's collapsing. You know what I mean? So, but we had a good time, you know, and it's like, and then that was one of the nights I was like, I was going to speak that night.
Oh, wow.
You know, he's like, oh, let's go get a haircut. But it's like, I think he was just humbling me, you know what I mean? Because he took me there, I broke the chair, and then on the way back, it's like 3 blocks away, right? Maybe like a 10-minute walk. He ends up putting me on one of these carts.
I can see this right now.
He ends up putting me on one of these carts with the dude in the back on the bike, you know, and he's got to pedal the bike. I'm so embarrassed. I break the chair at the barbershop. 2, they gave me some busted haircut. So Pastor Chucky, he learned how to speak Bahasa fluent, right? And I think he told them to give me a mullet or something. They gave me some jacked up haircut, and then he puts me on one of these little pedal bike cart things. Yeah. And I'm like, Pastor, I can walk. He's like, no, it's good. It's part of
struggling.
It's part of the experience. It's part of the experience. Struggling. And the dude, he can't even pedal the bike. He ends up calling like 3 or 4 other dudes, and they're literally pushing me down the street. And then we went to church, and I had to speak. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like, but that kind of stuff, it's funny, but it also built character. You know what I mean?
There it is.
I don't know how it did, but you know, it built character.
There's
I mean,
joy.
those are great times. So you know, Pastor Chucky, love you, but I owe you. But yeah, so that's kind of how it was. And then when I came back from Indonesia, got right back involved with the gang ministry, with the youth. Yeah. Ended up becoming like full time, working in the office. Well, during that time too, right before I went to Indonesia, when I came back from the training center, this is kind of how I got into being a mechanic. Is I got back from the training center. I still had desire to like be an automotive painter or a designer or something like that, because that's kind of where my plans left off before I went to the training center for a year. And you know, when I came back, so I'm out there looking for a job, looking for work. You know, I didn't really have any experience, so nobody was wanting to hire me. And then I showed up. There's a stereo shop in town that I knew the owner, and but he was like, "Nah, I can't really hire nobody right now." And as I'm walking back to my car, next door was a motorcycle shop called RC Cycles right there in Hayward. And you know, they're well known, you know, for performance and all that kind of stuff. But I didn't really know that. And so I walked in there and I was like, hey, you know, I'm young. I don't really have any experience, but I'm willing to learn. You know, I'm looking for a job to do whatever. I'll do whatever. And the owner, he was a great man. He ended up saying, okay, well, come back tomorrow at like 3:00. So the next day I go back there, and he hands me a broom and just tells me, just start cleaning the shop. Like, just start clean, like literally start from the bottom. You know what I mean? And I think that's a great way to start for anything, right? You start from the bottom, and because then you have an appreciation for every step of the process, you know. And so, you know, for about a year, that's what I did. I would come in at 3 o'clock. I would empty all the trash. I would sweep all the floors. I'd wipe down all the equipment. You know, I was like the gopher, you know, go for this, go for that, you know, go get me parts, go get lunch, you know. And so that's what I did. I went and I, you know, got parts and went and did all kinds of like meaningless things, you know what I mean? Or whatever. Not meaningless, but, you know, like, yeah, because the other guys were busy fixing stuff.
You start learning the parts,
right. So I started learning my way around the shop, you know, learning about a tire machine, learning about, you know, a lathe and a mill and solvent tanks and all this kind of stuff because I was the one servicing them.
True.
You know, like I would clean the tire machine and I would clean all the metal chips off the mills and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, watching these guys work on things, and even they would show me, hey, like, you hear that? Like, you listen to that? That's what a piston sounds like when it's starting to go, or that's what a lifter sounds like when it's starting to go, or, you know, different things. Like, listen, hear how that bike is not revving up, like the timing's off or something like that. You know, so I began to learn little by little, and then after about, I think it was like 9 months or a year, the owner, he ended up saying, hey, you ever thought about being a mechanic, like wrenching on things? I'm like, well, yeah. You know, it's just interesting to me. So then he ended up assigning me to one of his main mechanics there.
Oh, wow.
And this guy, you know, he knew everything, wiring, motors, transmissions. You know, they would do like big horsepower upgrades, you know, big bore kits, all that kind of stuff, because that's what they were known for is, you know, performance. So we would do performance upgrades on motors, send them to the dyno, get tuned, all that kind of stuff, carburetors. So he assigned me to him, and then for another about 8 months, I just stood there as an apprentice. Like, he wouldn't let me touch nothing. Like, you know, and you know, that's another thing, like kind of being like baptized by fire, you know what I mean? Like thrown in the deep end, because this guy, he did not like me. He didn't like me.
Oh,
he thought I was taking his position.
Oh, wow.
He thought the owner was like back, kind of undercutting him, and he's going to get free training for this young kid, you know. But over the years, because what happened was, as I began to just stand there, I would like put away his tools when he was done, you know, or that's kind of how I learned, because I didn't even really know the basic hand tools, right? He would say, give me a 1/2-inch wrench, and it would take me like 10 minutes looking for a 1/2-inch wrench. I didn't know what it was. So I ended up learning like that. But even, you know, he would call me dumb kid, you know, all the names in the book. You know, this guy was not a Christian. You know, he had a mouth like a sailor, you know, working on bikes, smoking cigarettes, flicking ashes at me. Like, you know, I would sometimes leave work in tears because I was so mad at him. Like, I wanted to like bash him over the head with a ratchet. You know what I mean? And but God had changed my life, so I couldn't do that. And you know, he began to teach me, and we began to work together, hand in hand. We would do it together. That's kind of like discipleship, right? True. Discipleship is like,
that is true.
You know, you let me do it, and you watch me, and then we do it together, right? Yes. And then the next step is, okay, now you do it, and I watch you, right? And then the final step is, and then the next step is you do it by yourself.
That's it.
And then after that is now you show someone else, right? Yeah. And so that's what he did. That's what he did when he began to teach me. Is, you know, for the first 6, 7, 8 months, I just stood there. He wouldn't even let me touch the bike. Yeah. You know, and he would test me, you know, kind of out of spite. You know, he would like hold up a bolt and be like, "What is this?" And I'm like, and he's like, "You dumb kid." Yeah. You know, or he would like, "Okay, what is this part?" You know, and it was like a valve spring or something, and he's like, "What does it do?" And I'm like, I don't know. You know, but over time, then he began to explain to me every bolt, right? Okay, this is a 1/4-inch bolt, and it's got 20 threads per inch, so it's a 1/4 20 bolt, you know. And he began to teach me all the little fundamentals of things, you know. And even again, coming back to that whole like clean the toilet, how you want God to clean your heart, how I learned from that is like, even in discipleship, like it's the small little, even minuscule things that we need to teach to the next generation, right? That it's not just like, yes, the main thing is serving God, but it's even like, okay, creating an atmosphere, right? It's how you talk, how you carry yourself, you know, how you treat people. Like, it's all those little things, because you could be preaching Jesus, you could be preaching God to people, but if you don't come across the right way, if you don't come with that tact, with that smoothness, right? If you can't read the room, if you can't read the atmosphere, you know, if you don't know like just the basic stuff, like it's going to hinder you.
True.
You know, so he taught me all those fundamentals. You know, the one word that he really drilled into me, man, you know, it was finesse. Like you got to have the finesse because, you know, I was a Harley mechanic.
Okay.
That's what we did. We worked on Harleys and top end Harleys. You know, like we used to work on Too Short's bike, on Richie Rich bike, on all these like, you know, football stars. They would come in, you know, the stereo shop next door. They used to work on, they worked on like Jose Canseco's cars, Ice-T. Even one time Joe Rogan came in with one of his Porsches, right? And, you know, so, you know, we worked on like high end stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like you have to have that finesse because you can't be just banging stuff around,
Go
right?
ahead.
You have to be
like
easy with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like because you're gonna break something, and it's gonna end up costing more money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's even like within serving Christ, we have to have finesse in our walk, right? We can't just like always just walking down the street like you're a sinner, you're going to hell, da 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 da. Like no, we have to have finesse, right?
True.
We gotta come with love,
True.
right? We gotta come with gentleness, but at the same time, we gotta come with that sword. You know what I mean? We gotta be able to cut and speak with that authority. You know, so it's like I always try to get spiritual lessons out of everyday lessons. You know what I mean? And so, you know, as the years go on, I do my apprenticeship there at RC Cycles. I end up learning how to build motors, how to rebuild transmissions, how to do electrical, all that kind of stuff, build custom bikes. And, you know, I was there for 8 years. By the time I left, me and the guy who trained me, we were the main mechanics. You know what I mean? And then I had the opportunity, to get a job with Oakland Harley Davidson, because I had no formal training. I had a lot of guys, they would go to MMI or all these you know, Wyotech, different things like that. And I just had old school apprenticeship, like just watch me and then we'll do it together kind of thing. Yeah. And so that was a blessing too, because then I didn't rack up like 50 grand worth of debt. You know what I mean? Well. So then I got hired on at Oakland Harley, and that was another thing because they didn't want to hire me at first. They were like, "No, we just hired a guy that was kind of from a shop, and he didn't turn out good like that." And then I was like, "Well, just give me a chance. Just give me a chance, like, you know, because I always learned too. One of Pastor Steve's sayings was, you know, if you're gonna put your best foot forward, make sure it shines.
Make sure it shines.
You know, so I was like, just give me a shot. Like, if it doesn't work out, let me go. No hard feelings." They ended up hiring me. And then, you know, as the year, I was there for almost 12 years. They ended up sending me to school through Harley Davidson, getting certified as a master mechanic, you know, going to Milwaukee and Arizona, getting trained and all that kind of stuff. And just learning even more mechanics. And then just recently, last year, I got a job with the city of Oakland. I don't know if I'm, you know, giving out too much information about my personal life. My social security number is 5, you know.
Go ahead.
My checking numbers.
Last 4 digits.
But you know, it's just to show you God's faithfulness, right? I was a kid growing up in a drug house.
Go ahead.
You know, bound for prison.
Go ahead.
You know, following the steps of my dad, thinking I was gonna die as a gang member. You know, wanting that kind of life. To being someone who's productive, to being someone who has a job. You know what I mean? Like that was big.
And
you know?
one thing, because you said it, you work for the. I wasn't going to bring it up, but I think I need to because you shared a picture of you working on a cop car. Yep. And I was like,
the same cop cars that probably chased you around Oakland.
You know what I mean? Like, what? This dude wait. So his house getting raided when you was a kid. Yep. From the cops. Yeah. And the ATF or whoever, but look what God did from that full circle. Yeah. Now that's why
I was saying, like, God, I've always felt God's hand upon my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm grateful to God for that.
Yeah.
That He's always protected me and always gave me the right direction in my life. Yeah. You know, that's one of the things that I've always prayed for was God, just give me direction. Yeah. You know, and not only give me direction, but give those around me direction for my life. Yeah. Right? God, I would pray, God, speak to me and speak to my pastors, right? Give my pastors directions for me, you know, and so even that's why, you know, there was times where it was like, I went to Indonesia. Was I scared? Yeah, but if God showed my pastor, then okay, that must be what I'm supposed to do. It's good. You know, and you know, and even through that, even through serving God. So, a year before I made that move from RC Cycles to Oakland Harley, I ended up getting married. And, I met my wife in the church. We were both, she was born and raised in the church. Her parents been in the church since the 80s. She was born, she was born on Saturday and church on Sunday, as they say, and, God blessed me with that as well, with an awesome woman of God who loves the Lord, who loves God more than me, which that every person, if you're looking for a spouse, if you're looking for somebody, make sure that they love God more than they love you. Right? Like, you don't need to be the God in their life.
Not at all. Right?
Because you're always going to fail them. They're going to fail you. So, we've been married over 12 years. We got 3 kids.
Yes.
Under 10. I got a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and he's almost about to be 2. And, it's just God's faithfulness.
Yeah.
Just God's faithfulness through that all, and God's just provision for us, always blessing us, with vehicles, with places to live.
Yeah.
Because, I've always had a good job, but in the Bay Area, one job is not enough.
Not enough, bro.
But God always provides. God always provides a way. And that was one thing too that I've always made a point in my life was to keep my stewardship on point.
That's
right?
it.
My tithes, my offerings, like, just don't rob God.
That's it.
You know what I mean? From day one. I remember my first job, I used to make like $150 a week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that was like, I don't even think I made $150 a week. I don't even know. Yeah. Let's see. I was working like part-time at a grocery store, and I was making like $5 an hour, Yeah. So it was like, it was change. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I would give God his $15.
That's it.
You know what I mean? And then he takes you to the next level. And then, okay, now I'm making, $900 a week or something.
Yeah.
So it's like, and then when you start getting into like, you're making thousands a week, and then you're doing your budget, and you're like, dang, like my tithe is going to be like $400, right? And you're thinking, that's a car payment. You know what I mean? That, if I put that away in a few months, I could go in like Hawaii or something, but I've always developed, I'm coming back to that training center, men's home. You always got to go back to your roots and what you learn, your foundations. And, it's like, it doesn't matter if I make $1 or $1 million, God's getting his cut.
True.
You know what I mean?
True.
Like, I'm going to be faithful to God because God has got me to this place. You know what I mean? And God has always provided. God has always made a way. God has always, kept us safe. God has always kept, my family healthy.
Yes.
And even coming back to my dad, like I said, gang member, drug addict, in and out of prison, bound for the grave. You know what I mean? He ended up getting out of jail, going through NA, getting saved, getting set free, delivered. He's been married for 20 years. He's been serving God for more than that, for 23 years, I believe, 24 years now. He's actually one of the assistant pastors at our church.
Yes.
He oversees our men's recovery home.
True.
He does the VETI, that's the training, the education, Bible
Great
college
teacher.
in our ministry. Like, that's God's faithfulness, because I remember years back in the training center, my dad had got, right when we first got saved, my dad had got diagnosed with hepatitis C. And for drug addicts, that's like a debt. That's like,
death sentence.
Yeah,
right
that's your ticket. That's your one-way ticket. You know what I mean? And that's
Yeah.
what Pastor Steve ended up passing away from. And a lot of those guys that spent years, putting needles in their arms and different things like that. So I just remember being in the basement of that training center right there in Bridgeport, just crying out to God that God would heal my dad, that God would touch his body.
That's
you know
it.
what I mean? And even when I would give my tithe, like, I always knew, like, God doesn't just pay, like, bless you financially when you give financially, but he blesses you beyond that.
Yes.
So I always knew, like, God, I just always seen my faithfulness as sacrifice unto the Lord, that God was going to reward it, in things that I can't obtain myself.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I can go get a job. Yeah. I could go make money. I can go get cars or this or that. Like, I could do that, but I can't heal my dad.
True.
You know what I mean? I can't, I can't go get my family members, off the streets and saved. But if I do what I'm supposed to do, God can do those things.
There it is.
You know what I mean? God can do the faithful. God could, that saying that, we serve a supernatural God. Right? We do the natural, and then God does the super. You know what I mean? So we just got to do our part and watch God, show off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
that's why I got you on here, Matt. Because what the Lord put in my heart to call you. Because we always hear about what the man went through, like the dad, like what your dad,
Yeah.
his testimony and everything else. But there's another testimony that we don't hear. It's the kid. It's the son. It's the daughter. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
all the, because as we know, Transform is about mental health. So it's more or less of, okay, you was a drug addict, you was a, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
you was a gang member, but what about your kids? Because I know for me growing up, my dad passing away when I was 6 from cirrhosis of the liver, and going through all the trauma, I really didn't have a voice. You know what I mean? Like some of the audience that's on here, their kids or they themselves, if they go back far enough, I hope it's not too far, but if they go back far enough, they'll come back and say, "Wait, I didn't have a voice then." You know what I mean? My mom was doing this, or my dad was doing this, but I didn't have a voice. Like even with you, Matt, what you modeled to me, I don't know if you know this, but I'm gonna let you know now. What you modeled to me is that you broke the generational curse. You get what I'm saying? Like you was doing that when you was a part of when you came to the church,
Right.
and then your sisters,
Yeah.
and they followed your lead. Hello, I watched it all. I watched it unfold. Like what the heck? It was like your sister was watching you. They wasn't. You know what I mean? You was involved. They wasn't.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So you broke that generational curse, and then you're able to pass it on. The legacy.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? The true legacy of being not just a man, but a God-fearing man. You get what I'm saying? Like it was an honor and privilege. This guy, oldest son, he can preach. Like he spoke powerful.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
what?
yeah.
I was like, wait, what the heck? And he's a youngster.
Yeah.
But like the Bible says, train up a child which way he should go.
Yeah. Yep.
And when he get older, he shall not depart. You know what I mean? But with your son and all three, really, you're bringing, I think for this podcast episode, it's like you're bringing hope.
Amen.
You know what I mean? You're bringing hope to the hopeless. And the amazing thing is that people, I know they heard Antonio's time, but Antonio's time was different from your time.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? And this guy teaches like a scholar type of thing in financial. You know what I mean? Like the way you teach is how you break it down, how you and I think a lot of people, I know a couple of people that say, "Man, Matt got it down pat, and I'm doing what Matt said, and I'm doing my thing." But you, even from you learning from that gentleman, it's being faithful in the little. I don't know why I said that.
Oh, yeah,
being
for
faithful
sure.
in the little.
That's what it all comes down to.
You know what I mean? Being faithful in the little, like your tithes, like just not giving up.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Even though at times situations might come your way that's hard, but you just can't give up. You know what I'm saying? Like that young man that's probably listening. You know what I mean? That young lady that's probably listening, saying, "Man, you don't know, man. You don't know the drama. You don't know the." No, we might not know, but we know who knows.
Yeah, that's true.
You get what I'm saying? We know who knows.
Yeah.
And if you're able to listen and you're able to receive, and I like what you said right there before that, you said that he spoke to your heart. I learned something recently, that when God speaks to your heart, that's where what is it called? I think it's 12 inches from your brain to your heart. It's like
Okay.
12 inches. And the crazy thing, the heaven and hell is 12 inches. It's 12. But it's only 12 inches to get to your heart. But once he gets to your heart, the thing is, like, I don't know about you, but when you meet the girl, right? You meet the girl, your dreams, and you try to get to her heart. Hello. Or, you know what I mean? Or you trying to understand who she is. Okay, what's she like? Okay, I'm gonna surprise her with this. I'm gonna give her this. to get to the heart. But God's saying, just like the Bible says, He's standing at the door and knock. Right?
Yep.
And He's knocking at your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And the amazing part about it, Matt, you didn't know what you were saying yes to. A lot of times, you just take a leap of faith. Mm-hmm. A lot of things that this man do, this one thing he modeled, faith. That's one thing I see from you. Yes, I was a youth leader. Yes, all that stuff. But I watch and I observe, and you're the man that just faith. Mm-hmm. Not even thinking about it. Like I remember when you came back from Indonesia, you was super skinny. You had that what is
Cutlass?
that thing? The Cutlass, and then you was just skinny. Like everybody will go out there, change your eating habits. We all get skinny.
Not just that, it's like 100 degrees
And
and
it's about,
100% humidity. You're just sweating all the time.
You know what I mean? Leaking. But what you modeled, I know for myself, and I can give you praise. You model how faith in the little, how to have faith in God, just in a little bit, like just putting Him first after you, you know what I mean? You making this much money,
yeah,
and you have faith in Him.
Yep.
Just by you being on the other side of the world, and you have faith that He's gonna heal your dad.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? That's faith.
Yep.
You get what I'm saying? And you're stepping and you're moving and you're doing it. You know what I mean? You and your wife. You know what I mean? Y'all, man, these faith walkers. And from you being that way, Matt, I believe your sisters are following it.
Amen.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they're following it because you and your dad is having footsteps. Mm-hmm. You get what I'm saying? It's like a trail.
That's so true. And even like you're saying about how the Father and the Son, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Even for you guys, yeah. You were saying how my son Julian, my oldest son, how he's a great speaker. Like, man, like he loves the Lord. Boy. You know what I mean? Like, so Victory Outreach, we have some books, right? We got like Treasures Out of Darkness, Vision for the Outcast, Sunny. Yeah. These books that our founders wrote, and he's already on his second time reading Treasures Out of Darkness. And Treasures Out of Darkness is like
that's thick
book.
That's a thick book, bro.
You know what I mean? Like
he's on his second.
Yeah. And he's just reading it just to read it. It's not even like something that we told him, hey, you need to read this. Like, no, he just he picked it and he goes to the men's home, during the summer, he was going to the men's home like once a week.
Yeah,
just hanging out, giving them Bible studies, you know what I mean? Taking notes, and he would come home and be like, oh, I want to put together a message. And he starts, and that's the fruit of serving God. Yes. You know what I mean? Because for one, if we didn't serve God, I don't know if I would have kids. And if I did, they probably wouldn't be like this. Come on. You know what I mean? Come on. Like my kids, man, like it's just a trip because not only do they have on my side, but even on my wife's side, her parents are serving God. True. So they got their grandpa and their grandma on that side, right? Lolo and Gigi, teaching them spiritual principles and how to love God and how to worship God, you know, that they see their grandparents with their hands lifted at the altar. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That, they see my dad and their grandma, Grandma Shorty, Debbie, that's what we call her, Grandma Shorty, because she's like this tall.
I never knew that.
Yeah, we call her Shorty, Grandma Shorty. But, these are anointed people. These are people that they're literally treasures out of darkness. True. You know what I mean? Like, we're all treasures out of darkness, but they were like deep in darkness. Real. You know what I mean? Like, I was right at the edge of the cave. Yeah. They were like deep in the cave, right? Like, inside. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like by the lava. You know what I mean? And, but they're, drug addicts and gang members and just no good, like, thieves, you know. Yeah. And God changed their lives. Yeah. And that's why it's so important, even to those who are listening, like, if you're serving God and you're struggling and you're feeling that tug of the world, like you gotta fight, man. Yeah. You gotta fight. You gotta you gotta just let that old you be dead, that old life be dead. Yeah. Like burn those bridges, burn those boats. There ain't no going back. Yeah. Because the future depends on it. You don't know. You might be 21 years old right now and you're struggling with serving God, but your decision you make today, it's going to affect generations to come. You know, your faithfulness and your determination and your trust in God to continue to go forward, it could be life or death for your grandkids. You know what I mean? For your children.
Yes.
You know, like I can honestly say, if my dad didn't stick it out, I probably wouldn't be here. So it's like my dad broke curses in our lives so that I can go forward.
Yes.
And then now I'm having to break curses so my kids can go forward.
Yes.
You know, it's like we're blazing the trail so the next generation can keep going. And if we get weak, if we get lazy, if we get lax, if we kind of compromise, then the next generation, it's going to be thicker and thicker, that it's going to be harder for them to push forward, and they're going to end up giving up.
That's it.
You know what I mean? That we're only 1 or 2 generations away from people not knowing who God is. Right? Even in the Bible, you know, when it said, you know, when Moses died, Joshua took over. And then when Joshua died, a generation grew up that knew not God.
I was reading that today.
You know what I mean? So it's like,
ahead.
if I come to a point in my life and I focus too much on my emotions, you know what I mean? And I go, you know what? I'm tired of going to church.
Go ahead.
I'm tired of giving my finances.
Go ahead.
I'm tired of, being on the worship team, or I'm tired of doing life group, or, you know what? I'm just going to do me. I'm just going to go to work. Like, God knows my heart. You know what I mean? Like, okay, that's cool. But then what about your kids?
What about them?
Even if you don't have kids, eventually you might have kids.
Yeah.
Right? Or what about your nieces or your nephews?
Yes.
You know, or your godkids or whoever, anybody who's around you, right? Because I believe that every Christian is a leader in that sense, that you're an example to the people around you, to your family, to your coworkers, to your neighbors.
Yes.
You might not even interact with them personally, but they see you.
Yes.
They see how you react to things.
Yes.
They see how you talk.
Yes.
Right? They see what you do. Oh, look they're getting ready to go to church. Yeah, but last night they had a party and they were bumping, Easy-E and drinking 40s. What the heck?
Go ahead.
You know what I mean? Like,
Go ahead.
They're watching us.
Yes.
Right? They're watching, and it's not a bad thing.
No.
We want them to watch us because prayerfully, if they see us, they see God.
True.
Amen. And it gives them hope. So my dad broke curses. I got to break curses in my kids' life, things that I struggle with.
That's it.
Because of what my dad did, I didn't have to struggle with drugs. You know what I mean? But I had struggles in my own life.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Struggling with like pornography and different things like that. Like those are things that I have to defeat in my life so that my kids don't have to face those giants.
Yes.
Because if I put it off, if I just let it continue, if I just kind of push it under the rug, guess what? That giant's going to come back for my kids. Right? I got to defeat those giants, cut off that head.
That's it.
Right? My kids are going to have their own giants that they're going to have to face.
That's true.
And I can't fight them for them.
True.
But what I can do is fight the giants that are before me.
Come on.
Amen. So that they don't go to the next generation. You know what I mean? So, it's very important that for us as men, as fathers, even for moms, that we stand and we fight. That we fight and we don't allow the enemy to come in and deter us and defeat us and pull us away, but we continue to serve God even if we don't want to, we still go to church. You know what I mean? Because those emotions are going to come and they're going to go.
That's emotions.
You know what I mean?
Feeling.
And even like for you, you guys got your son Antonio.
True.
And I give a lot of credit to who my kids are and their love for God because of Antonio. Antonio is one of their Sunday school teachers. He teaches them in the kids gang, in the children's ministry, and he has an anointing to bring the word in a way that just captivates the kids and motivates them and encourages them, and sparks that interest in them. And I know that comes because of the love of God that you and your wife have.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That you have imparted that into him.
True.
So, it is important. It's very important. So that's why it's like when I see young families come in, I'm like praying, like, God, keep them, God, protect them, God. Like, because if they only knew what was in the balance, it's the generations to come. And that's really what I'm fighting for right now is I'm just fighting for my kids.
Come on.
I'm fighting for my marriage. I'm fighting for my wife. Like, we're not struggling, but it's a constant battle.
Always.
Right? You always got to be on your toes. Yes. You always got to be on the defense and the offense at the same time.
Yes.
You got to be going forward, but at the same time, you got to be, protecting, you know, and because the enemy, he's like that lion, right? He's just waiting in the weeds, waiting to pounce, waiting to attack, waiting to come in at any moment. You know, he's trying to slip in with, you know, inappropriate things online or different movies or Facebook or short, whatever, you know, and it's like we always have to have our guard up.
True.
You know, because we're fighting. You know, yeah, you can come to church just for the fuzziness, for the good feelings, you know, the goosebumps,
the oohs.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
that's why I call them the oohs.
but after a little bit of that, you're gonna realize, okay, there's more to this.
Yeah,
there's more to this, amen. And I mean, that's kind of like that in a nutshell. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
it's big, you know, and that's the things that we learn as we serve God is that, you know, we're in a battle.
Yes.
You know, we're in a battle, but that doesn't mean we have to walk around defeated or downcast or like PTSD. You know what I mean? Sometimes Christians got PTSD walking around like, you know what I mean? Like we got joy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we're in the battle, but we serve a God that's victorious.
True.
You know what I mean? We serve a God that is an overcomer. We serve a God that is all powerful.
True.
You know, over any principality, over any spirit.
True.
You know what I mean? So it's like we just have to know that, and we need to walk in victory. Because if we walk defeated, what testimony is that?
Not at all.
Right? What testimony is that if we're walking around always beat up, right? And like, oh, how's it going? Oh man, the devil's been just having a day with me. Like, okay, like, ain't your God bigger? You know what I mean? Like, no, we got to be walking around like, you know, like. We gotta be so happy that our coworkers tell us to be quiet. Yeah. You know what I mean? They're like, why are you smiling so much? Like my coworkers, they ask me all the time, like, why are you so happy? Like, why are you walking around singing and whistling? It's like, I'm just praising God, man. Like, God is just good. Yeah. You know, and you know, it's just that's the joy. We need to have that joy in our life. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we go through struggles. Yeah, we go through battles. Yeah, we have hardships. Mm-hmm. We experience loss. We experience heartbreak. We experience all that stuff. But at the end of the day, the joy of the Lord surpasses all understanding. Go ahead. Amen. Go ahead. And so it's like we just have to really stand on that and hold on to that, and you know, focus more on the spirit that's in us than what we're actually feeling. Yeah. If that makes sense.
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Man, bro, you just went deep in.
I hear people singing.
No, they over there.
Oh, I'm like, angels are singing in my headphones. Oh, it's that church next door?
Church next door.
Amen. Because I can't hear him.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you hear him. But, oh my gosh. Okay. Let me see here. So, getting close. Okay. I got this question for you. What would you say to the younger Matt? Like, if you had your time just to, you know what I mean, just to sit down with the younger version of you. Yeah. And who you are today. What would you say, or what kind of conversation would you have? Like if you had just a sentence or anything to say to that younger version of Matt.
That's a tough question because, I mean, you would want to say different, you know, it's hard because I truly love where I'm at right now. Yes. I love where God has me. Yes. I love my family. Yes. I love my kids. I love my wife. Yes. And I think if I would have made any other decision, like I said, I got saved when I was young. Yeah. I was 12 and then I started serving God when I was 18. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's like I didn't really have a whole lot of, you know, regrets. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Probably, really the one thing that I probably would want to do if I could go back in time and know what I know now is I would, you know, and we all probably think that when we lose somebody is, you know, talk to my mom more, you know, witness to her more about God. Like, you know, because that's the thing is like, you know, my mom, wishing that she could see kind of where we've come to, you know, and I know in heaven, you know, she's looking down and, you know, she sees and, you know, even God has given me those opportunities, you know, in prayer where it's like, you know, in prayer we feel like we're face to face with God, but at the same time, you know, there's been times in my life, God gives you exactly what you need, right? And there was times where I was just grieving. I was just missing my mom. And it's almost like in that time of prayer, God gave me an encounter with my mom. You know what I mean? Where it's like I could feel her presence even though it's been 20-something years, you know what I mean? It's like I feel her presence in those moments. You know what I mean? Not every time, but there's times where it's like it's almost like she's sitting right next to me. You know what I mean? And that's just God's faithfulness too. You know, God knows what our heart needs, what our spirit needs. You know, so it's like if I could, I don't know if I would tell myself to do anything different, because then I wouldn't be where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
You know, if those things didn't take place, you know, I wouldn't have met my wife. Even the struggles that I go through, right? You know, it's like, don't allow your cousin to show you that magazine. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. Like, maybe that was it, you know, like, you know, and, but again, it's made me who I am today. Yeah. Those battles, those struggles, right? Maybe, you know, I'm glad that I got saved when I was young, because like for my dad, when he was 17, he went to the ranch. The ranch is like the men's home, and he had an opportunity to serve God, but he didn't. He ran, right? He ran from God, and then he got caught up in a whole lifestyle, and he didn't come back until his 40s. Yeah. You know what I mean? So even for those of you that are young, like, maybe, you know, it's just, if you have an opportunity to serve God now, do it. Yeah. You know, if you have an opportunity to change the course of your life, do it now, because the longer you wait, the farther away you're going to get, and the longer it's going to take for you to get back. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like if you're on a road trip. Yeah. You know, and you put in the wrong address, or you make the wrong turn, but you don't correct it right away. You know, it could be a 5-minute detour, or it could be a 5-day detour, depending on how long you keep putting it off. Oh, I'm just going to do me. I'm just going to do me. Like, it's too good right now. Like, man, I got all these girls. I got all this money. I got all this whatever. I'm going to just do me, and I'll serve God when I'm older. It's like, you don't know how far off you're going. Don't know. And you might go too far where you don't have enough time to come back. That's it. Right? God is able to save you. Yeah. But it's like, why wait all that time? Yeah. When you can experience the goodness of God now. Yeah. Yeah. You know what I mean? When you can experience God's faithfulness now, when you can see his transforming power now. Yeah. You know, serving God is not just about going to heaven. Come on. Right? It's not just about going to heaven. Come on. Because for young people, that's no concession. No. Right? Like, serve God when I die. Like, I'm 18. Yeah. I ain't got right? Like, I ain't got nothing. That's like in 90 years. Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Heck? Yeah. But it's not about it's not just about the reward at the end of the road. It's about the journey to get there. That's it. You know what I mean? It's about experiencing God here on earth. That's good. It's about being that example, right? Being used by God. There's no greater feeling that I have experienced in my life than being used by God. That's it. That's good. You know, the times that I've prayed for people, and they've received healing. Yeah. You know, the times where you pray for people and they experience deliverance. Yeah. The times where you lead somebody to the Lord and their lives get changed. You know, the times when you're able to, you know, maybe speak a message across the pulpit. Like, there's no greater feeling than that. Yeah. There's no greater feeling than that. True. You know, that's even so and even it's neck and neck with like the birth of my kids. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's neck and neck with like, you know, marrying my wife and all the great things that we have. But it's like the experiences that I have with God in my life trump all of that. You know what I mean? And so that's what I want to say to, if I could go back, you know, and just, it would be in a word of encouragement. That's it. It would be like, yes, you're making the right choice. That's it. Serve God. You know what I mean? And I was waiting on you to say that part. Yeah. Because truthfully, a lot of people, I asked a lot of people that question. They all got different answers, but I think your answer lines right up with you. Encouragement. Because, Matt, that's what you model. You model, yes, faith, but encouragement. Amen. You know what I mean? Like, bro, if I can do it, you can do it, type of thing. You know what I mean? Like some people, and I meet so many people, but some people, they sometimes need that little, you got this. What? What you mean? But you don't, no, you got this. Mm-hmm. Like a David type of move. You know what I mean? Like, you got this. Yeah. Like, and what you said right there, you said a lot, but
what you said, what you can say to your younger version is, you got this. Like, encouraging words. Like, it's gonna be better later, type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's gonna be better later, not now, because sometimes we want that now.
Oh yeah.
You know, like now. I think now later's. You know what I mean? You want that now.
Right.
But sometimes God said, no, you got to wait for that later. Because you can't handle it right now.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, even with you building, like, man, you made that. I think I seen that truck.
Yeah, it's still around. I ended up because I have 3 kids and a wife. We couldn't all fit in the truck anymore.
Yeah.
So I had to sell it.
I swear I thought I seen that truck.
But I ended up selling it back to the family who gave it to us.
Okay.
You know, to the sons of the guy who had it back in the day. And so they drive it around. Yeah.
That's crazy. And the amazing part about it, how you was able to use your gift, the gift that God gave you, to bless another.
Oh yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like, they couldn't. I don't think they was able to fix that truck.
That's why it sat in their backyard for 40 years.
You know what I mean? They wasn't able to fix that truck, but you came along. You know what I mean? And amazing. And I'm gonna close here, getting close to closing. The amazing thing is with you, and I believe with your sisters. Now I go down the line, man. How I know the whole majority of the family. Dang, that's crazy. But you, as a father, not just a father figure, but as a real father. You get what I'm saying? Because some of us men, and thank you for the kudos with our son Antonio. I mean, by being a stepdad, you get what I'm saying? By being a dad, period. I know for myself, I didn't get that right model of being a dad. You know what I mean? Like, I was learning as I go. Like, I'm learning. Oh, I said that? Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I did that? Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. Even with your son, I think he has a YouTube channel, I think.
Yeah.
That's crazy, right?
They do. Yeah.
They, like, I think.
Well, they actually had theirs before me.
With the Legos and...
Yeah, it's build and skate. Build Legos and skateboard.
What the heck, bro? Yeah. Like, but in the process of that, it's like they're getting their identity. You get what I'm saying? Like, they're getting their own identity. Yeah. They're watching their dad fix on a car, so I'm gonna fix on this Lego. You get what I'm saying? I'm watching my dad fix on this, so I'm gonna fix on that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And what we sometimes don't know, who's watching us. You get what I'm saying? Like, watching us to a certain extent of, okay, what make him go? You know what I mean? What make him go? What's making Matt go? What's making Derek go? Just what's making Transform go? Like, sometimes people are watching without even saying nothing to you. You get what I'm saying? Like I know for a fact that so many people watch you guys from where y'all was and from where y'all are now. You get what I'm saying? Like, the transform and the ups and the downs and the ins and the outs. But one thing about this man right here, if he's going through something, he still smiles. What the heck? like, what's up, man? How you doing? I'm like, bro, I know you're going through something. I can see it, but he's smiling. But because why? Because just like the Bible says, the joy of the Lord is my strength.
Exactly. You
know what I mean? I think that's what you model, and I think that's what you grow on. I think that's what you show. And we need more people like you, Matt. And do you have anything, last remarks or anything you want to say to the people?
No, I appreciate you for having me on, and praying that this thing continues to grow and get out there. For those who are watching, share it. You know what I mean? Subscribe, all that kind of stuff, and just trust in God. there's greater things in store for your life that God has for you than you could ever even imagine. You know, I was, like I said, I was growing up in a 3-bedroom apartment full of, you know, drugs and guns and all that kind of stuff. And I never thought I would leave, you know, the Bay Area, the East Bay. You know, I never had any thought. You know, I thought back then going to Tracy was like going across the world. You know what I mean? And, you know, but God's taken me, you know, across the United States, up and down the East Coast, to third world countries, down to Mexico, you know, and just God has opened up my eyes to the endless possibilities that He has. You know what I mean? And, you know, just being blessed. Like I used to be depressed. I didn't like to smile. You know what I mean? I even before knowing God, I had, you know, suicidal thoughts. You know what I mean? Like, would anybody even miss me if I die? Kind of stuff. You know, and just going through all of that. And but God just completely just turned me around. You know what I mean? And that, you know, it's just gratefulness. That's the thing too. A lot of times when we struggle is because we're not grateful. We just have to be grateful. Grateful that we're just awake. Grateful that we're alive. Grateful that we're breathing. You know what I mean? Grateful that we got a job to go to. You know, grateful that we got, you know, legs to get us up and lungs to breathe, you know, and just grateful for all the things that God has given us. You know, and we might not, you know, have the biggest house or the nicest car or all this or that. Or 1,000 subscribers. You know what I mean? But
go ahead.
Just love God.
That's it.
Just love God and just be excited. And, you know, there's nothing greater than our God.
Come on. Nothing greater than our God. Come on. So as we close here, we're done. But thank you for tuning in. Thank you for liking, subscribing, comment. If whatever comment you have, just type it in here, you guys. But thank you guys again. And till we meet again, transform.